Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of Owning Your Sexual Self. I have on another wonderful guest with me today, somebody that I was connected to through the podcasting space, which is really cool. I've been podcasting now for 5 years, so we always come across new and interesting guests. And we have Jason Strongfeather on with us today, who is also a sex and relationship coach. He's been doing this since 2012, dabbled in boudoir photography, dabbled in surrogacy partnership, and so just an array of things. So, Jason, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be a guest amongst all your awesome guests that you've had.
Yes, well, I think we're all awesome in our own way. As I said, it's really cool to bring on different voices on the show, just because, as I said, we're all doing things differently. We all have our hands in the pot, let's say, of this, sex space, sexuality space, and it's really cool to have different people on from all over the world to hear about the work that they're doing. So I'd love to hear your story a little bit. Like how did you get into the space of working with sex and relationships?
Yeah, it started, I think back in the 2010s, somewhere around there. I transitioned from doing wedding photography to boudoir photography solely. And I got the chance to meet a lot of great clients who were all women. And I got to talking to them about their struggles with their bodies. I was in a way a body confidence coach for them. I gave them a transformative experience, boosted their confidence, and while doing that, you get to learn a lot about what they're dealing with. And I learned that they wanted me to listen, and then they would ask me for advice and actually want to know how my perspective can help them. And so I thought, you know, maybe I'm good at talking about this stuff. I'm not trained in it. Uh,
Hmm.
and then so I had a girlfriend who was a body worker. She worked with men, mostly, dealing with intimacy issues and like ED and stuff. And
Hmm.
she kept saying, like, hey, you would be great at this work. I have some female clients who I think need to work with a man. And so she referred them to me, and I started doing body work. And I think during college, I stopped doing all of that. Um, well, going back to college, that was in 20,
Hmm.
but going back to college, I should also mention I was working with women doing free um, uh, self-defense classes.
Mm.
And I got into a role of being like kind of this protector role and just helping them feel safe on campus. And there was a lot of that. So that was like kind of, I guess, preemptive to,
Hmm.
you know, being that safe person for women to talk to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then fast forward again to working with women as a body worker. I started to do a lot of research in that field and go to conferences and learn more about the profession. And I took myself on kind of a um, self discovery and growth period in my life where I did a couple of Tantra initiations, and I studied
Mm.
Buddhism, and I studied Thai massage, and all of that stuff, I think, um, drives me and what I do today, which
Hmm.
I'm a sex and relationship coach for women and couples. I'm a holistic somatic sexual healer and surrogate partner, and I still do the boudoir photography. So,
Hmm.
I stay really busy. Uh,
Hmm.
and that's really how I got started. And I feel like it chose me. I didn't choose to do any of this stuff. it kind of came up. It fell into my lap. So
Hmm.
today, I think what I want to talk with your listeners and with you about is what a lot of my clients are bringing up a lot right now, and
Hmm.
that's challenges in dating. Uh,
Hmm.
and I've noticed common patterns and things that women are challenged with. And it's, I'm not an expert on it. It's just something I can share with you all because I talk to a lot of women all the time. And I feel
Hmm.
like, as a community of people, if we share that, hey, we're all going through these same experiences, I'm not alone. And, the things that I do to help them overcome their challenges may work for a lot of people.
Hmm.
It's not like you need to hire me to be your guide. This is all stuff you can do yourself, right? I'm just there
Yeah.
to be a coach, right?
And if we could like shine some light on your story too, of just how you got into this space, right? This is over a decade now, right, of hearing different challenges from women within those different spaces. You mentioned body confidence. I'm sure that's something that comes up around dating, safety around men specifically, right? So many of us have trauma in our backgrounds, or we come from a history of failed, toxic, I'll use that buzzword, relationships. But really it's developed, and I would say this goes for men or women, but for today's conversation, we're focusing primarily on women. But that those patterns, right, those flow through to our current relationships. And so if we're operating on old beliefs of past partners or how we saw our parents date or be in a relationship, right? Like there's so much that we can uncover with that and learn about ourselves. And again, just to your journey, right? It seems like you started with the one thing and then the ball kept going and going and going, adding all these different experiences, these different modalities to your practice. And I think that's what makes people in our industry so special is that we literally nerd out over this stuff, right? Like I remember when I got my journey started, it was in direct sales for, vibrators, lubricants, bath body, beauty products, things like that. And, there's thousands of women within this company, but only a small handful of them would take it to the next level. And that's how I ventured into becoming a sex therapist and a sex coach myself, because I learned similar to you. It's like I feel comfortable talking about this. I have a gift with talking with people about this. Um, and yeah, like it's really cool to hear your story. So thank you again for coming on and sharing. Um, and so yeah, so let's pick up. So women are sharing with you their struggles in dating. Tell us a little bit more about that. What are some things that's coming up for them?
Hmm. Well, I'm in my 40s, so I can relate. Most of my clients are in their 40s, not really in their 50s and 60s and 70s, but
Mhm.
mostly in their 40s. And I think when you turn 40, things start to change. Our bodies work differently, our chemistry is differently. Um, we've had a couple decades of, being an adult, and, like you mentioned, we are conditioned, we are trained as children to be men or boys, and we grow up into all different spectrums of genders and identities, and those pose challenges because of our life experience, right? So
Mhm.
I think one of the top things that women bring to me are their lack of experience
Mhm.
in relationship or over experience in a certain type of relationship with which may be dysfunctional or toxic or not serving them, not pleasing them.
Mhm.
And those to me are like two sides of the same coin. So if you lack experience, you don't have any frame of reference of what the possibilities are, right? If you're over experienced in a certain type of relationship or too much experience with one person is like lack of experience, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So to me, relationships are the best way to gain personal growth. When you are intimate and you connect with people, you learn a lot about yourself. And so a lot of women are telling me a lot of horror stories about dating or being guarded about getting back into dating. So women in their 40s, some of them are coming out of a long relationship, maybe marriage. They've been with one person for a long time, or they haven't been in a relationship or had very little romantic relationships. So at that age, most people are experienced. So
Hmm.
you meet someone and maybe you're late life virgin or you've only had one boyfriend. So uh, it's a competition out there, right?
Hmm.
Dating is a competition. And if you are lacking experience, it's easy for someone to say, I don't know about this person. I've got other options. I'm going to move on.
Hmm.
Right. So lack of
Yeah, I
experience
almost
is
think.
not something to keep you from dating. It's really an opportunity to open up and gain experience.
Yeah, and I think that right, some people I think especially in your 40s, if you have somebody with little sexual experiences or little relationship experiences, it may even come off intimidating to them. And maybe they could feel like they're being judged in that space if there's someone on, like you said, on the opposite side of that coin. Is this person going to judge me because I have more sexual experiences, or am I going to have to flow into the teacher role, let's say, and if that's not something that was somebody was interested in. So yeah, it's very interesting. I like that we're going with this, right? Talking about just the two ends of the spectrum with this.
Another thing that comes up a lot is the attitudes towards sex. Um, so there are religious and there are cultural um, beliefs and upbringing that come into our even our um, openness to having another partner, right?
Hmm.
If you come from a purity culture, you were taught to be, a good girl who doesn't go around with many men, that may create a blockage for you to even engage in a new relationship,
Hmm.
right? And then also there are issues around shame around women's bodies, about showing them, about the smells of them, about just being comfortable in your own skin. And along with that is a conditioning for a lot of girls who, from birth, are taught to value beauty. And they place their worth, their self worth, their value on how they look. So from a young age, you always hear parents say, "Oh, she's so pretty. This is my beautiful daughter." Um, and nowadays, with um, people who are Gen X, they've grown up with a lot more media feeding them.
Hmm.
They were the
Hmm.
first people to have had personal computers. They were the first people to experience internet dating and social media. And so there's a lot more pressure and exposure to um, unrealistic um, ideas of beauty. And
Hmm.
so it's created kind of this community experience of having negative body image and feeling that I am not worth it if I'm not getting attention um, more attention, right? Because of just the way I look.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think this could be a like an opportunity for us to mention too that this, if any of these things that we talked about so far are coming up for anybody that's listening, this is the work that we do, right? Like in the sex therapy, in the sex coaching space, this is what we help people sort of unravel and peel back the layers of the onion, if you will, to figure out, okay, let's what beliefs are we still operating on and what do we want to let go of, and then what do we want to make room for as far as new beliefs about ourselves, about our relationships, um all of it, right? Like and how we see love and how we show love, how we accept love. There's yeah, there's a lot. I think for every individual there's a lot to unpack, and especially if you're someone in your 40s that's going through this for the first time, right? Like like you said, that's a lot of years, that's a lot of decades of shit to rewind and look back on. And that
Yeah.
might seem intimidating to some people, but I could tell you it's worth it. It's fun, it's exciting, it's overwhelming, it's sad, it's a mixture of emotions, but in the end, definitely worth it.
Yeah, yeah. And so my approach to helping people overcome these issues is exposing them to what is their weakness or what is most uncomfortable about themselves and their relationship with themselves. And
Hmm.
I believe the only way we learn, or the way most people learn best, is through experience. So, with body image, and I didn't realize this for a long time. I was working with women, taking pictures of them in their underwear for 10 years. And I knew from feedback that, it was empowering, but I didn't realize how deeply empowering it was.
Hmm.
Um, and and for me, I mean, it's easy to understand, but when you're working and you're doing it, you don't get it. But until I became more involved in doing the sex coaching, relationship coaching, and the embodied practice, I realized that, yeah, on the surface, if I help you um, pick out great underwear that makes you feel comfortable and sexy, and great clothes that fit you for your body type. And I help you with your hair and makeup, and I help you pose and look great on the outside, right? You look great
Hmm.
and you have photos to prove it. But that experience, focusing on yourself, getting in touch with your femininity, which you probably haven't in a long time, maybe you've got kids or you're being a chauffeur here and there, right?
Hmm.
That is deeply, profoundly transformative. And
Hmm.
so that's one thing I use. And when women are ready to start dating is, let's get some great pictures of you, first of all, so
Hmm.
you can see your potential and
Hmm.
you can start focusing on yourself. The next thing we do is, I make sure that people do the work to work on themselves, learning their attachment style. You can go to attachmentsproject.com, do the quiz, learn what your attachment style is.
Hmm.
Learn what arouses them sexually. Are they a sexual person? Or are they even kinky, right? And a lot of people don't know these things until they
Hmm.
try it. So you get to talking about these things, and I'll give you an example. Um, I was talking about communication in sex, and one thing a lot of people don't find this surprising is, I think it's okay to talk about sex on a first date to a
Hmm.
certain point, right? You might as well get it out the way. Um, and being comfortable and talking about that with someone, you know who you're dealing with and what your preferences are. And it's a great icebreaker once you get comfortable with doing it.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
So, this client was, who all her life had, unfulfilling sex with her spouse, and it wasn't for her. And I would ask her, um, what do you think about this? Or would you like to do that? And telling me how she feels about the possibility of things. And, I brought up like spanking or hair pulling. And she said, huh, maybe I would like that. Okay. So, let's try that. How does that make you feel? Wow. And she found out that she's really a kinky person. Now,
Mm,
I'm not a kinky person. But to me, I was the most kinkiest person she ever met. And
mm,
that was like a gateway to knowing, right, what her erotic style is, what arouses her. But she would
mhm.
have never known that if she didn't go through the practices, go through thinking about, right? And that's really important.
Yeah.
Um, and then also, if you have any baggage, like from your childhood, from bad relationships, any blockages, any guarded parts of you that kind of interfere with you being authentic and intimate with someone, you got to work that shit out before you get involved with someone, because
Hmm.
relationships are about taking care of someone else, and you got to be able to take care of yourself first.
Hmm. Yeah. Mic drop. Literally. Yes, that's so true. I tell people, and really, no matter what age they're at, it's like when if you are exiting a relationship, there is so much to be able to reflect on, take ownership of for yourself. It's not always the other person. Not always because of the other person. It's not fair for us if you're in a relationship, right? It takes two to tango. Maybe somebody carries more of that load and ownership, right? And their difficulties, challenges, whatever. But certainly there's always stuff that we can work on. For instance, if you stayed in a relationship much longer than you probably should have, that was me before my marriage, the relationship before my marriage. It's like my self-esteem now I know, right? My self-esteem, my self-worth, well, at that time I had no idea. It was so low and my attachment was so anxious. I knew that wasn't a fulfilling relationship for me. I knew that I wasn't getting the love that I deserved and that I wanted, but I couldn't end that because of my own personal shit, right? And if I think of the relationship before that, cheated on, disrespected, right? Like not receiving the love that I wanted. So that time for me, and I was in my early 20s, and this was a very transitional time for me is exactly what you're saying, like figure your shit out, figure out what is healthy love, what do I deserve, gaining that self-work, going through the revenge body, right? Like getting into the gym, doing things that I actually wanted to be doing, and not trying to constantly please somebody else to try to get that love that I was craving. So anyway, that seems like a lifetime ago at this place, but I can imagine, right? I did this in my early 20s. I can imagine somebody that's doing this in their late 30s and their, 40s. Again, just to name it, it's a lot. It can be a lot, and I tell people all the time, especially people with kids, the greatest gift that you can give yourself or that you can give a child is an example of what healthy love looks like and healthy relationships. I truly believe that fixes so much wrong in our world is when we can love in a healthy way.
Be a good model for the children in your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because how often in your work, right? One of the first things I ask people is tell me about your life growing up. Tell me, how did you see your mom and dad generally, right? That's where they came from. How did you see your parents love each other? How did they show love? How did they show affection towards each other? How did they argue? Right? Like all these things are important questions. And then I do something called a sex timeline with my clients. And it's like, okay, so this thing that's happening in your relationship or your marriage right now, or the relationship that you just got out of, we can link that back to this thing that happened in childhood or what you thought or why you've been allowing this things to operate this way. So it's all very interesting to say the least.
Everybody is different,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Our
Absolutely.
bodies and our experiences, and we're all on our own timelines of personal development. So
Hmm.
it's a life journey. It's never too late to get started learning more
Hmm.
and becoming a better you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I like that we touched on the boudoir photography. That's something that I've explored. My sister is a photographer, so I've had many boudoir shoots in my time.
Oh,
But
excellent.
yeah, and there's definitely something to be said. If I can tell I'm kind of in a funk or I'm not feeling great about myself, the experience that I have in that, boudoir shoot, let's say, versus a time where I'm feeling really good, I'm feeling energized, I'm loving where I'm at, right? And it's so mental, but we host events here in Michigan for women, and it's like a big girls' day, and we have makeup and hair. It's a really great event that we do a couple times a year, and we stage my bedroom upstairs, our spare bedroom. We stage that for the photo shoots. And when women go up the stairs, right, they're nervous, they're covered up, they're in general, not all of them, but they're covered up. They're maybe someone's for the first time. I like that you touched on, right, like for so many women, they're not exploring that side of them, like tapping into that feminine side of them, that sexy side of them. Um, and so I swear, they go up one woman and they come down a completely different woman because of that experience. So let me plug boudoir photography here if you're dating or if you're not dating, but if you're someone that's looking to just love yourself in a much different way and tap into that sexual side of yourself. Yeah, boudoir photography. I speak very highly of this. I would highly recommend that for people. Um, and I think also to do an experience like that, and as you said, to be able to see your potential and then to think, I think this is a tip that I would add into dating here. Really figuring out who is your ideal partner, what are your non-negotiables in a relationship. And it goes further than, somebody with a good laugh, somebody with nice humor, somebody that's 6 foot, somebody that wants kids or doesn't want kids.
Yeah.
It goes so much deeper than those things. And have a long list for yourself, right? Like, yes, some of these are going to be, I prefer this, but we all have our non-negotiables. And I would dare to say that I hate using the word should, but we should have our non-negotiables. You deserve to have non-negotiables for yourself in relationships. And especially people that are entering in the dating pool again, having something like this makes it so easy in my experience, in my um, opinion, to if somebody hits that thing, checks that box, great, we're moving on or we're not. If let's say we rate something, somebody comes up and they don't fall in, they check the box of something that is a non-negotiable for me, great, move on. We're not wasting our time with people that aren't meeting our needs, that aren't going to meet our needs. Um, and I think in dating, especially in your 40s, you have to be a little cutthroat, right? Like time is of the essence. We don't have time to be, fucking around basically. Man, maybe you want to fuck around, get laid here and there. That's more power to you. But
Yeah,
yeah.
and to know, okay, sometimes that's what you need at a certain
Hmm.
point in your life.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
To be honest about that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Some people aren't ready for a committed relationship. Yeah, that's the goal, but right now they're not there, right?
Hmm.
Maybe they
Hmm.
should focus on a shorter term relationship, which, will give them the exposure they need to eventually get to that goal, right?
Hmm.
And to realize that and know what your boundaries are, like you said. And most people don't. They don't know
Hmm.
what their boundaries are, what their likes or dislikes are. So you have to explore that and you have to
Hmm.
get deep or you're going to be wasting your time, right?
Hmm. Yeah. And if I can, I know I said time is of the essence, but I also want to say here that there is no rush, right? Relationships can
Yes,
happen at any age, so
correct.
don't settle. We deserve better than settling.
Yes, yes. It is not a rush. Enjoy the ride. Dating is supposed to be fun. It's a time
Hmm.
to meet people, to learn about yourself, not just to go out and meet all the people, right? But
Hmm.
like sex, it should be fun and playful and don't feel like you're in a time crunch to meet this mate and just settle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy dating. If I were single right now, I would be okay with going
Mm-hmm.
and meeting new people. I've always, not always, but for most of my dating life, I've had fun, and I stay positive, and I enjoyed the ride, and I took from it, each relationship that ended, I took from it, well, what could I have done better? What did I learn about myself? What did I
Mm-hmm.
learn that I didn't want? Um, and it's okay to fail. That's how
Mm-hmm.
you learn.
Yes. 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 Well,
And,
this has been a great conversation, Jason. Is there anything else that you want to add before we jump off? And I'd love for you to share your contact information, website, or if anybody wanted to work with you or check out your offerings, I'd love for you to share that here at the end.
yeah, just to add, I want to emphasize that quiz I told you, everybody should check it out, attachment project
Mm-hmm.
org. And if you're inexperienced in sex and relationship and you're not really sure why, um, there's a good book on my desk, which I think helps a lot of women, uh,
Mm-hmm.
by Emily Nagoski. It's called Come As You Are.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot from science to um, practical. So yeah, you can find me at intimatehealer.com. And if you want to check out the Boudoir Studio, it's boudoirbyjason.com.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not on social media. If you want to go to my website and send me an email question, I have a newsletter, and I talk to people one-on-one. I don't really do the social media thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much, Jason. We'll make sure to include that stuff in the show notes for people so they can easily find it. But again, thanks so much for being a guest and coming on the show today.
Hey, thank you for having me.